Shoot.
All right.
Are
What a
we
late start this morning.
So yeah, here's the thing. I think are we recording?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can. Yeah, I did it. So yeah, we talked about this before we started. My computer is a Mac, which I like, and it's a good Mac and it works well, except for the fact that I have a wireless mouse, and it can't charge and work. So I got it just charged enough to start this recording, and then I had to put it away. And then when this goes and records, it has to be like, "Hey, we know you're recording, so you can't be surprised, right?" And then I was like, "Hey," and I didn't know if I could do it. So it will be interesting to find out when when this is actually starting to record. It's truly technology is magical. Speaking of magic, Andrew, I have this deck of cards right here. And
Oh,
okay, cool. So I'm gonna
you're
do
surprising me here.
yeah. So
Okay.
I learned a magic trick, and we're gonna open with a magic trick because
Okay.
I can't think of a reason not to, and then we'll talk. Okay,
Let's do it.
okay, it's a deck of cards, right? Boom,
Okay.
deck of cards. Cool. You can touch it, but it'll be weird.
Yeah,
So
I'm curious to see how this is going to work on Zoom. So,
no, it's gonna work. It's gonna work. Okay, so yeah,
okay.
deck of cards, right? Okay.
All right.
So say stop whenever you want.
Mhm. Stop.
I got through the whole thing. You have to say stop sooner.
Okay. No, so that was because of the delay. All
Okay.
right. So
Oh,
this
okay.
so this
Okay.
is part of it. All right. So
Okay.
I'm gonna say stop like a couple seconds before you actually
Say
stop.
stop
Okay.
a couple seconds before. Okay,
All
ready?
right. Stop.
Okay, cool. Here you go. Okay, I'm looking up. I'm not trying to look at the thing. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I'll get it. I will come back to that later. Okay. Cool. How you doing?
All right. Awesome.
Good. Yeah.
Cool. All right. I like
Yeah.
it. It's looking like we're gonna frame the podcast with a magic trick. Is that
Or
where
I'm just
to?
gonna let it go. I'm just gonna move
Okay.
on with my
We'll
life.
just forget about it.
I think you could really look at the four. It's something I talk about. Yeah. Hey. Hi, Andrew.
Hello, Brandon.
It's something I've talked about before with stand up really often is and I'm not being mean when I say this, but sometimes when people do like those sad stand up specials, and I'm not that's not an insult of what they are, but like that's not stand up. Like that's not what I did at the beginning isn't a magic trick. There's a certain like rules you have to follow for something
Mm,
to be stand up, for something to be stand up. You know what I mean?
mm,
And I don't, that doesn't disregard, like, it's not, no matter how hard you try, Love Actually isn't a horror movie. Now it's fun to pretend, but it doesn't have the, like, there's this whole thing, and I had it too. I don't know if you have this, where people are like, I hate genre. I hate genres. I just like music, just good or bad music. Why do we always have to worry about genre? And my argument is, I think you can like all types of music. You can like
mm,
any genre of music, and that you don't have to be like, I only like this or I only like that. But at the same time, you have to understand that like a genre, like if you
mm.
walk into Texas Chainsaw Massacre and you're expecting um must love cats and dogs, you're gonna have a bad time. Like it,
Yeah.
I am more, the older I have gotten, the more I am for genre.
Okay. I see where you're going with this now. At the first, I wasn't quite sure where the conversation was going, but I see where it's going now.
Where
So
I think it was going to go. This is almost more interesting than anything I was gonna say.
yeah. Well, no. So I think I so where I've heard people say that about like we don't who cares about genre and stuff like that, and I've definitely been guilty of it myself. But where I think I've heard it the most is with people writing their own music.
Okay, totally.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because uh, and it's difficult, like especially when you like a lot of different things.
Hmm.
But at the same time, usually from an outsider, uh, it's a lot easier. If you're writing music and I listen to your music,
Hmm.
then it's usually a lot easier for me to identify like what kind of music it is, what genre it is.
I get that. I totally get
Yeah.
that. But I even think like when making it, that's maybe okay. But I think knowing what you're making is putting you on a trail
Mm,
of, and like you, the thing is, and it's one of those things about making art, and it's one of the great and terrible, because what art is a little bit is saying someone, this is my heart. Does
Yeah.
it cross over your heart in any place?
Mm.
And the places it crosses over is what art is. It's an attempt to communicate something. And
Mm.
I think we can comfortably say that art is the creation of an object that is attempting to communicate something. I
Mm.
think that is that's sort of an axiom that we have to all be on the same page with.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and I think as an audience member, even for someone like me who loves music, you love music, uh, you know a lot about music and stuff like that. I think that even for an audience member, I think it makes it easier to sort of identify what you're listening to, or to go to that section of the record store when we used to have record stores, to find the kind of music that you're interested in. Yeah.
or even the algorithm is like
Yeah.
what is, and I'm not saying don't break away from it. I'm not saying don't uh be more than it. I'm not saying any of that. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is like it's okay to say this is a thing. And I think in some ways the idea of like this is no genre, I don't
Mm.
think of stuff in genre, is a little bit lazy, instead of being like, if everything has happened under the sun, what is the thing that's happening here? You
Right.
know?
Well, and I think with someone like, so okay, with the kind of stuff that I wrote, like that I write, uh I'm kind of across the board with a lot of different things. So I think like in my case, I can identify what a specific genre of a certain piece is that I write. But like if I were trying to identify the genre that I am, then it's much more mixed, you
Yes.
know. And
And
so for example, like we were before the podcast, we were talking about the projects that I was working on, like the stuff that you and I do. And if people are listening to this podcast, they're familiar with the experimental stuff,
yeah.
that you and I do. Um, but the piece that I'm writing right now is more in the classical world,
Mhm.
and it's not going to be it's not going to have that kind of experimental side in the same way that Yonko does.
Mhm.
And then, I've talked about the acoustic group and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I've also written more kind of like new agey sounding stuff and, along those lines. So like those specific pieces, like I think they can be categorized in certain ways. But I think if someone who knows well, you know a lot of what I do. So like, how would you describe my writing, my musical writing, knowing all of that I do?
First thing I would describe it as is handsome. I would take the time and I would call it handsome. No, I
Okay,
think
let's just stop there. I'm okay with that.
yeah, my genre is handsome. I'm the handsome genre. Uh, I think we can. I mean, you can pretty easily point out that there's a rock base to it, and that it's guitar based. It is not. There may be elo. I mean, you can break stuff down. Like, okay, in looking at it, it's all going to, if not be around a guitar, that's your thing. You learned a lot
Sure.
about that, and you might be writing on other stuff. But when I think Andrew, I think guitar, and that's not bad. And you can do other stuff with it, but that's your instrument there. I think
Sure.
you also point out the fact that it is not electronic. And what I'm not saying is that you don't use a computer, but you're not thinking in, I'm doing this on a computer. There's nothing wrong with doing it on a
Mm.
computer, but that's a different way of approaching music, is opening not Bandcamp, but opening, I'm going to show my age in such a weird way, opening Fruity Loops
Yeah.
and creating a loop, and then even if you are going on Fruity Loops, creating a loop, and then going and taking a real instrument and playing on top of that, that's different than playing a real instrument then adding stuff
Mm.
using technology on the back end. I think in some ways, like, listening to your music and knowing you, not an insult. I'm with this on this, so I want to be
Mm.
clear. There's an age thing that is evident, because like there is a certain point where like we, you and me, or you, I, mean, I guess me too, but like there's no reason we should ever use trap hats. Like we can, but like
Yeah.
there's certain things that I think you can comfortably, once you have to, you certain stuff you're allowed to use at an age, and other stuff you have to use a little bit more carefully. Also, there is a race thing I'm not bringing up here, but there is that involved as well. But like, it would be weird if Yonko suddenly had trap hats in it. Like, it would be weird if
Sure.
triplets in it, and it
Yeah.
would. And would it work? Maybe if we could make it make sense, but would it be something that we would have to justify more? That's not a base you can start with.
Mm.
And I think like you can look at who, you know, all art is you trying to communicate with someone. And
Mm.
it's you creating an object that it communicates with someone. And I think we all can. It's one of those things. I think. Well, what about conceptual art? Well, the concept is the object. You know that. You're just doing bad faith arguments at that point.
Mm.
But I think you have to look at yourself and it like say what part of my heart feels natural to share with people. You know.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's what I think. The genre of Yonko is. It's people's hearts crossing. Uh,
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, even with Yonko, we've done a lot of different things, like if you compare, Zodiac with sampler with hold music, I mean, I think, all of that's very different. But I think what you're saying is correct because I think with a lot of what we do with Yonko, you know, from a writing standpoint, a lot of it for me is really trying to do experimental stuff. But I think um, from a collaborative standpoint, you and I are both involved with theater, and I think that influences a lot of what we're doing. I think what you're saying is correct, like that idea of communication and reaching people in whatever way, whether it's an experimental way or like that more kind of like the kind of audio play that we did with, I think a lot of that influence is influenced by theater.
I agree. I think you can't. And there is something. It is a Yonko by its nature, up to and including this piece, because if you're going to be self-referential, why stop at any point and just make it all the way up to including the point where you're self-referential? Hi,
Sure.
myself. So one of the things that is about that is Yonko is that it is a several different pieces, and it is all locked together, and it is illegal scam hold music, and it's sampler, and it's uh, Zodiac, and it's the stickers that will get you there. We have a
Mm.
handful on some of the things about like, oh, I found this sticker outside of here, and that's how people interact with it. That's part
Yeah.
of that was less so nowadays, if I'm being honest, but nowadays it's rash commercialism and just trying to get my name out there, man.
Mm.
But one of the visions for me really about this piece was, and like one of the things that was really important starting out for
Mm.
Yonko, I think if we just focus on Zodiac, since that's coming out relatively soon,
Yeah.
um, one of the things we can really look at while speaking about genre is how much Zodiac has changed,
Yeah,
from
exactly.
1 to 3, from 1 to 2 to 3, which I'm very excited to go back to. But
Yeah.
one of the things about Zodiac 1 is it was very much part of a. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Like the advertising in Zodiac 1 was, we want you to find this in weird spaces. We want to
Yeah.
frighten you. We're kind like there's a the bad guys are out there.
Yeah.
And it's us in
Mm.
Zodiac 1 that I think was very important to the vision of that.
Yeah.
That is not so important. That has been let go. And I think in working in art and playing with genre and playing with what am I doing, you have to also, while figuring out what you do and what this and that is, I think the fastest thing to really screw yourself up is to be like, and this is what I do, and I'm
Mm.
done. Now, some people are good enough at that. God bless ACDC and 11 albums that sound exactly the same,
Sure.
but uh, also you have to be able. I hate the term. You have to be able to evolve. Like it's something that has been like just it's the you won't hear mistakes, that nobody listening will hear mistakes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
over and over again. But I do think like uh, creation by its nature is a movement of
Mm.
something. You are the act of making is to make is to move through time. Um, just inherently, even if it's just
Mm.
even if it's an instant long, you are moving forward in time in your making, and to try to have a part of it that is stagnant seems to be counterintuitive to the act of making.
Mhm.
So there was an episode that we lost that's about
Right.
Frasier.
Well, and so there's a lot you covered there, so I'm trying to like back up and catch all of it.
2 minutes. Good luck.
Yeah. Um, but I think that I think we'll definitely have a longer conversation about Zodiac 3 and the
Yeah.
idea of it changing because I think that's a big part of what it is. And but I think for me and I'm curious when we have that conversation to hear your side of it, but that idea of beginning of where we started with Zodiac 1 and how you described it, like to me that is an evolution because it's still related to that.
Hmm.
And the characters are still related, and we've introduced new characters and things like that. But I'm curious to talk more about that. But what I also wanted to say is that this conversation has kind of like sort of been driven around the music side, but I think the same thing applies to the art that you're talking about as well, because like the art and how it's changed from Zodiac 1 to Zodiac 3 is I think just as important because that's, you know, we've influenced each other and that's been the whole thing, you know, of Zodiac. The whole really if you boil down Zodiac, that's really what it is like how you and I and our art has influenced each other, I think.
I think so. I'm also like each Zodiac I approached a little bit differently, and
Mhm,
Zodiac 3 had a very specific
mhm,
plan to it. The images of Zodiac 3 were denser than anything I
mhm.
had done before. Like just I wouldn't say more complex. I would literally just call them denser.
Yeah.
Because I was using a new concept that I really liked for that, which is just
Mhm,
layer on top of layer on top of layer on top of layer. I like it's also funny because it's interesting because it will be it'll be fun to talk about the characters
yeah.
because what characters come back or what characters I think we came back because there was a discussion about Zodiac. It's been a while since we talked about Zodiac. A podcast about Zodiac that got started because of Zodiac. And when I'm like, oh yeah, it's been a while since we brought this thing up. Um,
Yeah. But what you're describing is very similar to my mindset as well.
yeah,
Um, and that's one of the traditions as well is that we're not allowed to talk about it while we're making it. And now once
now
it's finished, you
now
know,
it's
we can finally start to talk about it. Yeah,
but it's not out yet. So we're in that but it's not all
yeah,
the way done. So we're in that in between space where we're still
exactly.
like sparring a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was your card?
It was the King of Spades.
Yeah, I knew that.
See, I knew you were going to tie it in. I did, you know,
Uh,
I, but you know, you did it in a comedic way, and you kind of gave us a warning. You said what you did is not a magic trick. You know, you did
Yeah,
give
no,
us a
I was
warning.
like, this
Yeah.
isn't a magic trick. I try to do a magic. Here, turn off the thing. I'll try to do a magic trick.
Turn it off. All right.
Yeah, turn it off. I'll try to do magic.
All right. Bye, everyone.
So yeah, don't worry. Magic is happening outside of the frame.